Well, Mr. Odelim Irigbara joins us now. He's a development economist and he'll be sharing his own insights into the 2020 budget proposals. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you for having me. It has been a long time.
It has been quite a while.
Yes.
Looking at the budget proposal, though, is there anything at all that gives you cause for optimism?
My sister, I'm not pessimistic for the sake of being pessimistic. I'm pessimistic because everything we are doing that we're supposed to do right, we're doing them wrong. We are doing it wrong. And why should I be pessimistic when my house is on fire and the people that are supposed to put it off are dancing and celebrating? So that is the picture I continue to create until something is done to the economy, because we can't continue business as usual and expect something better to happen. So
this budget for you, the proposal is business as usual?
Not only a business as usual. In my article yesterday on a group I write daily, I said this is a budget that is leading us to bankruptcy. I'm sorry to use that word, because you know the figures. The figures are not the figures you can have at this level of our economic journey. How can you have your debt to be rising to 30 trillion within, in fact, it has doubled within 4 years, and you don't have ways to reduce or to pay back your debt? You continue to accumulate debt. Then the debt service to revenue ratio is getting to 80%. Most countries, when it's 30%, they declare economic crisis. And we are all dancing and we're all coming to television to speak the same grammar. I think something is wrong with this country called Nigeria. I'm sorry to use that word, because you get a point, you tell yourself the truth. Why should I be drowning and I will be celebrating?
Now, some people have talked about the debt being one, the fact that a lot of it is domestic, not foreign.
Yes.
The fact that we are able to still meet our debt servicing commitments.
Yes.
The fact that we're investing on infrastructure.
Yes.
And over time, hopefully, this infrastructure should be able to pay back themselves. It doesn't give you any, it doesn't address the issue of debt for us, because as it stands, quite a number of people believe that there is money in the economy. The question is, how do we harness it to work for the majority of people?
You have said things that anyone who says them, who believes those figures are true, must be heading to the hospital for psychiatric examination. I'm not saying you, but I'm saying what the figures out there. First and foremost, we are domestic debt exposed. And that's not a good idea, because an economy that is growing like ours must be externally debt exposed, because borrowing domestically is expensive. That's why the service to debt is so high. Because if we borrow externally, it shows that there's confidence in our economy. But we are borrowing domestically because it's a consumption borrowing. So that's why we should do that. So you look at that in that way. Two, you don't address infrastructure by putting 2 trillion every year. Do you know the cost of our infrastructure? The deficit in our infrastructure is 500 billion. That's why Atiku said, you know what? I'm going to bring a foreign investor from all over the world to make Nigeria the largest, the biggest investment destination for infrastructure. And that's what we should be doing. Look, we cannot, it will take us 1,000 years using the amount we are spending to address our infrastructure. My dear sister, should I be pessimistic? Should I be optimistic or pessimistic?
If you bring 1,000 investors to come and invest in the Nigerian economy to build infrastructure worth 500 billion, they're looking to recoup their money.
Of course, of course.
Yes. So
of course.
The question is, it's still the Nigerian people who will pay them.
No.
And those people will be capitalists, wouldn't they? They will be looking to make a profit on what it is that they make. Isn't that right?
I knew we were going to get to this. That's why I came in with something to show you the figure. This is, can you look at this figure? It is 17.88 trillion to be made if we carefully invest or come up with a policy that will automobile administration, traffic offenses, and toll gate revenue generation. This is what Nigeria is missing every year. Just by changing our automobile administration, traffic offenses, making sure that traffic offenders pay, and also bringing in toll gates. But the toll gate this government is talking about is not the toll gate I put together, which I submitted to government. I won't mention the name of the government because very soon we'll go to court. The toll gate we're talking about is to build the complete new roads. Build, operate, and transfer for 30 years. The builders will build it every 100 kilometers. You tow it. Entry and exit. And I will tell you from here to Lagos, you will see millions of cars flowing. And as they flow and they pay $1 per 100 kilometer, and the builders of the road, foreigners and Nigerians, Dangotes and all of them will build this road, and those who want to use local road or old roads will be using old roads if they don't want to pay. And this is the type of investment we're talking about. Look at the palm oil industry. Palm oil industry today is 200 billion. Malaysia and Malaysia and Indonesia are the two major players. Nigeria used to be number one. Now, by 2030, it will be $1 trillion economy. And you know who are the players in Nigeria? Okumu is a foreign company. Presco is a foreign company. PZ Wema, a foreign company. And they are gradually trying to take over that industry. Just like how in the early 90s, early 70s, Shell, Chevron, Exxon, Mobil took over our oil industry. And nothing is being done. These are the things government should be looking at. Not every year you show out budget that is laughable. South African budget in 2019 was $122 billion. South African economy is smaller than Nigeria economy. South African economy is economy in 2018, 363.3 billion. Nigeria economy in 2018 was 397.3 billion. By the way, Nigeria economy from 2014, when it was 563.5 billion, has now gone down to 373 billion, now losing 171 billion within 4 years. It's a cost for alarm. And when people like my friend, who is a highly respected friend of mine, that is Honorable Abubakar, comes here to find excuses for what government is doing, that's an alarm. I will tell the Nigerian people, and I will tell those who are holding the key to the future of our democracy, that is the Supreme Court, to think through and make sure that who won the 2019 election must be awarded that, because if not, we are heading to doom. And I don't want to say that doom because I'm saying it from the bottom of my heart. If my country is doing very well, I'll celebrate it. But if my country is doing badly, I cannot be one of those people to celebrate falsehood.
Okay. Chamberlain?
Well, yes, indeed. I needed to just shed some more light on the debt service component, because same economists did say and advise the government that they can't keep borrowing locally because they need to free up capital for the private sector, which they did. But now you still say that is not good enough. What would you then recommend?
No, I have been one of the people recommending external borrowing. When Kemi Dioshu was there, I was actually insisting that we reduce, because the ratio of domestic foreign is 65 to 35, more or less. So I was saying, let's reverse it. Let external borrowing be higher and the domestic borrowing be, so that, as you rightly said it, and that's the truth, so that the debt market will accommodate small business players and things like that. But that's the reverse. And you know why our debt is higher, the cost of servicing our debt. South African debt to GDP is 56.7. Our own is below 18%. But the cost of servicing our debt is far higher than that of South Africa, because South Africa borrows one for more externally and cheaper. Two, it borrows for investment. But in our own case, we borrow expensively and we borrow for consumption. So we have we lack the ability to repay our debt. We don't have the revenue to actually have a high return on investment to be able to pay or service this debt. So that's the issue. That's why. But I'm in agreement with government that we have to increase our VAT, because look, our VAT is one of the lowest among peer economies. South Africa is 15%. Most countries 20, 25, and thereabouts. So I'm in agreement with the government, but also I'm telling government, look, it's not enough to increase VAT, because the revenue from VAT is actually diverted. Most of the collectors of VAT money do not actually remit up to 40% of that money. So that's the area we should pay attention to.
Yeah. So there is a, there are questions about, apart from the debts, which you have raised questions with. There are also questions with revenue projections. Are you happy with what we have projected for revenue? The fact that we also cannot shirk off fuel subsidies, so some people are saying that that continues to be a burden as well, and also the fact that we continue to peg the price of the naira against the dollar.
These are two complex questions. If I forget, bring me back to remind me. But first and foremost, let's start with pegging the naira to a dollar. Because we are a driven economy, we must do that because most of our revenues are actually oil from oil. So pegging it is to enable government actually know the amount of revenue it is going to get in a particular year in order to be able to know how much it's going to spend. But I've always said that why not we allow the market to determine the value of the naira? Modern economies do not peg all these things. Let the forces, demand and supply, and actually determine the value of the currency. Because when you do that, so many foreign investors will come in with their money because they know that it is the market dynamics that actually determine the value of a currency. But if you peg it, then what you do, you distort the interplay between demand and supply. Something has to be done on that. Although we have an economic team, I will tell you, my dear sister, that it is so baffling that China has a few economists, but China has the best, fastest growing economy. America has the best economists in this world. 90% of Nobel laureates in the past 10 years are Americans, but America cannot compete with China. So economic competitiveness or development is a function of political will, a political decision. It's not a function of bringing some economists. By the way, economists are just talking what they think they will talk about. I'm telling you, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to insult economists, but I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah, but that would include you as
No,
well.
but what I'm trying to say in essence is that no, it's not an insult. What I'm trying to say in essence is that the fundamental things you have to do, you don't need the economists to do. Like closing our border, you don't need an economist to tell you that. Like making sure that foreigners that are bringing the goods here are taxed enough, and that Nigerian-made products are the ones that most Nigerians consume. You don't need the economists. I will assure you, and I'm not pessimistic to say this, I will assure you that bringing 40, even 1 million Nigerian economists to solve Nigerian problem will not solve Nigerian problem because it's institutional and structural problem. Let's deal with over-centralization of fiscal over-centralization. Let's allow regions and states to emerge and take over because that's what happens all over, and have been happening all over the world. But if you over-centralize, if you have to get water in my village, I have to come to Abuja. Everybody will keep quiet. Everybody will relax and sleep. But so that's what I'm saying in essence is that what government should have done by now, and that's what I planned for Atiku, and Atiku accepted it. We must force regions to emerge. Let there be competition among the regions. The ones that are falling behind, the government will encourage, will give them some financial support, some fiscal backup. But the ones that are doing very well, government will also encourage them. But when you allow everybody to sit down and be waiting for the center to bring in money, people go to their homes and drink, borrow, and marry more wives and wait because government will take care of that. So that is the truth.
It's a good place to leave it. Mr. Odelim Emegwara is a development economist. Thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Daily this morning.
Thank you for having me.
The program continues shortly. Please stay with us.